Hey folks, back with another video. Let's dive into what stories got my attention today. Starting with the recent tussle between the Beijing and Taipei, it seems that the cross-strait scholars, journalists, and commentators in Taipei have said that a series of high-profile quote-unquote spy confession programs aired by mainland state broadcaster the China Central Television across 3 days this month had a chilling effect in the self-ruled island. Now, the report said that the mainland authorities had uncovered quote unquote hundreds of Taiwanese espionage cases since 2018, though the reports identified just 4 people accused of spying. Quote, I have stopped visiting the mainland since the outbreak of COVID-19, and now I definitely won't go during the quote espionage saga, end quote, said Chai Lei Yi, a Taipei-based defense expert. Now, many other Taiwanese scholars had made the same decision because they did not feel secure, he also said. Now, another cross-strait expert in Taipei, Alexander Huang Chicheng, said that there were question marks over the basis for the alleged espionage given the mainland's opaque Communist Party controlled legal system. Quote, there is a lack of legal standards on the mainland to define what espionage consists of. End quote. Now, the Beijing government, which claims Taiwan as its sovereign territory, has suspended official exchanges with Taipei since Tsai Ing-wen of the DPP was elected president in 2016 and refused to accept the One China principle. Again, Alexander Huang Chicheng said that the latest crackdown and so-called confessions could provoke Taipei to detain mainland scholars in revenge, compounding the damage to relations. Well, now the ball is in Taiwan's court, so to speak, and it depends on what they decide. Now, the decision by the Beijing regime will not be seen in a positive light by the West. It will be just chalked up into just another grievance in the list against Beijing. Moving on to the Armenia Azerbaijan conflict over the Nagorno-Karabakh region, it seems the two countries have broken some kind of a record for breaking truce before the ink dries, so to speak. So it seems it has been reported that the both sides have accused the other of shelling within hours of the latest agreement to defuse the conflict, which was reached after talks in the Geneva between the two countries' foreign ministers and envoys from France, Russia, and the United States. The Nagorno-Karabakh Emergency and Rescue Service said that the central market in Stepanakert, the enclave's largest city, had come under fire and that large parts of it had been burned. Shushan Stepanayan, a spokeswoman for the Armenian Defense Ministry, also said that several civilians had been wounded in attacks on the strategic city of Shushi, about 15 kilometers or 9 miles to the south of Stepanakert. Now, Azerbaijan's defense ministry denied both accusations. It said that the regions of Terter, Aghdam, and Aghjabedi had come under artillery fire, as had Gubedli, a town between the enclave and the Iranian border that was taken by Azeri troops this week. Three ceasefires have failed to halt the fighting, the most recent brokered in Washington last Sunday by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. While they do say that past performance is no indication of future results, I'm just waiting when these two countries sign a truce and abide by it. Moving on to see the Armenian perspective, Armenia's leader urged Russia on Saturday to consider providing security assistance to end the fighting over Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan asked Russia's President Vladimir Putin to quickly discuss possible security aid to his country. Now, there was no immediate response from the Kremlin. Now, the request came as Azerbaijani troops pushed deeper into Nagorno-Karabakh and both sides accused each other of breaking a mutual pledge not to target residential areas after it was made. Russia, which has a military base in Armenia and has signed a pact ob- uh, obliging to obliging it to protect its ally in case of foreign aggression, faces a delicate balancing act of trying to maintain good ties with Azerbaijan and avoid a showdown with Turkey. Pashinyan's request puts Russia in, of course, a precarious position, because joining the fighting would be fraught both with unpredictable consequences and would risk an open conflict with Turkey, but on the other hand, refusing to offer protection to its ally Armenia would uh, hurt Moscow's reputation and prestige. And I believe that Russia wants to play the role of a neutral party in the conflict. While this is a commendable on their part, and I would say also smart statecraftmanship, Russia will try to use its influence with both countries to try to make sure that the war remains in as small area as possible and that it doesn't spill over. Also bear in mind that Russia has other commitments like Syria and Libya where it is actively in some capacity involved. Plus, they also have potential crises on their doorstep, namely Belarus. So they are trying not to get involved without taking too much of a hit on their reputation. Moving on, the French police have are currently holding three people under arrest for questioning in the investigation, which is focusing on the two telephones found on the suspect after the attack. The first man, a 47-year-old, was detained on Thursday evening after being seen next to the attacker on surveillance footage the day before the attack. The second individual suspected of contacting Isawi the day before the attack was held on Friday. Now, police said Saturday a third man, aged 33, was arrested after being present when the home of the second suspect was raided. Early on Thursday morning, the attacker cut the throat of Miss Nadine de Villers, 60, and the sexton Vincent Lacoue, 55, inside the Basilica of Notre Dame de Nice, investigators said. A Brazilian mother, Simone Barreto Silva, who was stabbed several times, took refuge in a nearby restaurant but died of her wounds there. Now, even before that attack, President Emmanuel Macron had promised a tough new campaign against Islamist radicalism nationwide, which had aroused controversy and condemnation from Muslims around the world. Nice's mayor Christian Estrosi told Europe One Radio that he wanted to see a change in the constitution in order to quote unquote wage war against what he termed quote Islamofascism. Now, protests erupted Friday in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Mali, Mauritania, and Lebanon, the latest in a string of mass rallies denouncing France. Personally, I side with France, and I think President Macron is doing something to push the Muslim world to face the fact that the West has values that the Muslims have to accept if they want to live in the West. One of the things Muslims have to understand and accept is that while Muslims can practice their religion, what they cannot do or give cover to are people who want to use the religion to commit atrocities and terrorism. Muslims have to actively fight against the terrorists in their midst, to, in some way, paraphrase and paraquote Joe Jorgensen of the Libertarian Party. Moving on to the last story, which I am very excited to talk about, is that the first International Space Station is going to be celebrating its 20th birthday, or, well, it's going to celebrate 20 years of continuous human occupation of this space lab. Now, the International Space Station was launched in 1998, and the first long-term residents arrived on November 2nd, 2000. And of course, next week on November 2nd, 2020, it will have completed 20 years. Now, there are a number of events already scheduled leading up to the 20th anniversary celebration on Monday. NASA and space agencies around the world are using the milestone to underscore our achievements in space since the end of deep space crewed missions in the 70s and the Space Shuttle program in 2011. Former astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, who participated in its construction, finds it hard to believe that the International Space Station has been inhabited for 2 decades. He has been to the orbiting station 3 times and was the last person to visit before permanent missions started in 2000. The International Space Station orbiting the Earth today began as an idea in 1984 to construct a permanently crewed Earth orbiting station. Now, of course, Russia had the same idea with its Mir 2 proposal in 1976. Now, as it turns out that the International Space Station is the 9th space station to be inhabited by crews, following the Soviet and later Russian Salyut, Almaz, and Mir stations and the US Skylab. The International Space Station has been a collaborative project involving 5 space agencies including NASA, Roscosmos, which is Russian, the JAXA, Japan, ESA, which is the European, and the CSA, which is the Canadian space project. Ownership and use of the space station is established by intergovernmental treaties and agreements. Now, the International Space Station is the largest artificial object in space and the largest satellite in low Earth orbit, regularly visible to the naked eye from the Earth's surface. Now, it can make about 15.54 orbits every 24 hours, with each orbit taking 92.68 minutes. And the International Space Station is fast moving too. Its orbital speed is a whopping 7.66 kilometers per second, or in other words, 27,600 kilometers per hour, or 17,100 miles per hour, according to Heavens Above. Now, the space station is divided into 2 main sections: the Russian orbital segment, operated by Russia, and the United States orbital segment, which is shared by many nations. Now, the latest major pressurized module, Leonardo, was fitted in 2011, and an experimental inflatable space habitat was added in 2016. For my view, I would have to say the International Space Station shows how different countries can work together and promote both peace and also advancement in science and technology. I hope that we can build more such projects, both in space, underwater, on land, where we could work together, advance both science and technology, and hopefully we could uncover new mysteries that we are not aware of. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for future updates. Write in the comments your thoughts, criticisms, and anything I might have missed. And I will see you in the next video.